Hi everyone, welcome to Anecdotes by Addison. I'm here to tell you like it is because that's what I do best. And today I'm going to talk to you about how the left has divided us as a nation.
He cannot give his name, but tell me, how do you feel about all of this?
I feel that it's a great travesty of justice. I feel that the jury in Simi Valley gave the okay to continue to abuse and oppress and suppress black people in this country. I feel that there is an undercurrent of racism and that the system is rotten to the core. And I couldn't sit in my home and just watch it on television. I had to come here and let my voice be heard.
Now let's go back to the year 1991. It was a special time, and in 1 year's time, there was about to be one of the biggest news stories to date, and would be marked a historical incident in the United States. If you type into YouTube Rodney King, you will find nothing but one-sided videos surrounding the allegedly unnecessary and racist beatings of Rodney King. You will find no other explanation other than that of racism as to why this man was taken out of his car on a highway at night in Los Angeles in the early 1990s and beaten in front of God and everyone by several police officers with someone filming them nearby. No explanation at all, other than that they were being racist white cops. Because, isn't racist synonymous with white and cop these days? Apparently back then too. In fact, unless you specifically search on Google for a conservative news source to give their take on what actually happened back in 1991, here's what you'll get if you type in Rodney King. When LA erupted in anger, a look back at the Rodney King riots. Rodney King, riots, death, and quotes. Biography. Race and policing. The legacy of Rodney King. Rodney Glenn King, American construction worker. In case you have no idea what the Rodney King case is all about, let me read you straight from Wikipedia. Early in the morning of March 3rd, 1991, incidentally, was the day before my 6th birthday. With his friends, Bryant Allen and Freddie Helms were driving a 1987 Hyundai XL west on the Foothill Freeway, Interstate 210, in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. The three had spent the night watching basketball and drinking at a friend's house in Los Angeles. At 12:30 a.m., officers Tim and Melanie Singer, husband and wife members of the California Highway Patrol, noticed King's car speeding on the freeway. They pursued King with lights and sirens, and the pursuit reached 117 miles per hour, while King refused to pull over. King later said he tried to outrun the police because a charge of driving under the influence would violate his parole for his previous robbery conviction. So far, he sounds like a swell guy. King left the freeway near the Hanson Dam recreation area, and the pursuit continued through residential streets at speeds ranging from 55 to 80 miles per hour, and through at least one red light. By this point, several police cars and a police helicopter had joined in the pursuit. After approximately 8 miles, officers cornered King in his car. Officer Tim Singer ordered King and his 2 passengers to exit the vehicle and to lie face down on the ground. Allen claims he was mishandled, kicked and stomped, taunted and threatened. Helms was hit in the head while lying on the ground. King remained in the car. King grabbed his buttocks, which Officer Melanie Singer took to mean King was reaching for a weapon, though he was later found to be unarmed. She drew her pistol and pointed it at King, ordering him to lie on the ground. Singer approached, gun drawn, preparing to arrest him. At this point, Kuhn, the ranking officer at the scene, told Singer that the LAPD was taking command and ordered all officers to holster their weapons. According to the official report, LAPD officer Kuhn ordered the 4 other LAPD officers at the scene to subdue and handcuff King using a technique called a swarm, where multiple officers grab a suspect with empty hands to overcome potential resistance quickly. By standing to remove officers Powell and Brazeno from his back, the 4 officers claimed King had resisted attempts to restrain him. King denied he resisted. Witnesses also claimed King appeared not to resist. The officers later testified that they believed King was under the influence of PCP, although King's toxicology tested negative for the drug. At this point, Holliday's video recording shows King on the ground after being tasered by Kuhn. He writhed rises and rushes toward Powell. As argued in court, either to attack Powell or to flee, and King and Powell collided in a rush. Taser wire can be seen on King's body. Officer Powell strikes King with his baton, and King is knocked to the ground. Powell strikes King several more times with his baton. Briseno moves in, attempting to stop Powell from striking again, and Powell stands back. Kuhn reportedly said, "That's enough." King rises again to his knees. Powell and Wind are seen hitting King with their batons. Kuhn acknowledged ordering the continued use of batons, directing Powell and Wind to strike King with power strokes. According to Kuhn, Powell and Wind used bursts of power strokes, then backed off. In the videotape, King continues to try to stand again. Kuhn orders the officers to hit his joints, hit his wrists, hit his elbows, hit his knees, hit his ankles. Officers Wind, Briseno, and Powell attempted numerous baton strikes on King, resulting in some misses, but with 33 blows hitting King, plus 7 kicks. The officers again swarm King, but this time a total of 8 officers are involved in the swarm. King is placed in handcuffs and cord cuffs, restraining his arms and legs. King is dragged on his abdomen to the side of the road to await the arrival of emergency medical rescue. So now that we know all the ins and outs of this infamous scene, let's go through it step by step together. 1. Police follow a car for speeding, of which the driver is unknown. They know he's black as much as they know he's a ghost. They have no idea who's driving. All they know so far is that the driver is speeding, and as their job entails them to do, they turn their lights and sirens on to alert the car to stop and pull over. Number 2. The driver begins speeding even faster, trying to ditch the cops in his dust. Still, the cops have zero clue who this person is. It could be a man, a woman, or an alien for all they know. But again, they're doing their job by pursuing the vehicle in question. Number 3. The car now goes off the freeway and is headed into residential areas. Presumably, where the speed limit is between 20 to 30 miles per hour, he's exceeding speeds of 80 miles per hour. Still, no indication of who this person is. But the cops are no doubt on the edge of their seats as they follow him in hot pursuit. Number 4. Once the car finally does stop, the cops tell the driver to get out of the vehicle because, again, they have no idea if this person is armed or not. And so far, they don't know what the driver's mental or physical condition is. He could be drunk, high, or psycho. Number 5. Now the driver is out of the car, and the suspect is told to get down on the ground. Sounds reasonable considering all of his erratic behavior driving down a highway speeding and then through residential areas. Number 6. He gets out of the car and waves to the helicopter up in the air. He's got guns, plural, pointed at him, and he starts waving at the helicopter up in the air. This whole situation is one big joke to him. I would have no question in my mind at this point that the man was on drugs, because what other explanation could there be for his behavior? Number 7. The police suspect he's on drugs. Number 8. The suspect, while lying on the ground, grabs his ass, and one of the cops believes that this is in an attempt to grab a weapon. Totally understandable. If I were near a cop, I'd be afraid to scratch my nose. Making any kind of fast movements when the cops have you lying on the ground with guns literally pointing at you is never a good idea. Idiot. Number 9. The cops swarm him with empty hands, a technique I've personally never heard of, although I'm not a cop. Continues to resist, according to the police, an allegation King and other witnesses deny to be completely fair. And so, because he allegedly resisted, the police continue to beat him. Number 10. Is it wrong to beat somebody? Absolutely. Is it wrong to speed? Absolutely. Is it wrong to try to lose the police in a high-speed chase? Absolutely. Do you sometimes reap what you sow? Yes. I am not for 1 second suggesting that some, if not all of these cops might have been racist. It could be. There's a 50-50 chance. I have no idea if they were racist. Or maybe none of them were racist. It really doesn't matter to me because I know the beating had nothing to do with the color of his skin. It had a lot more to do with his behavior, trying to evade the law, and what I do know, something the media like to leave out about his life story prior to and subsequent to the March 1991 beatings, is his rap sheet, which is fairly extensive. I mean, compared to mine, it's quite the read. In July 1987, King beat up his wife while she was sleeping, then pulled her out of the house and proceeded to go another round with her. He pled no contest to battery. In November 1989, he robbed a store with a tire iron, swung a pie rack at a clerk, and was booked for assault with a deadly weapon, second-degree robbery, and intent to commit great bodily injury. Following the March 1991 beatings, in May 1991, King picked up a transvestite prostitute. He wasn't charged. In June 1992, King beat up his wife, but she didn't press charges. In July 1992, King drove intoxicated. No charges. In July 1992, he drove drunk again. So, to make a really, really long story as short as possible, because of the videotape of the beatings, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office subsequently charged 4 of the officers in the beatings with assault and use of excessive force. The police officers were acquitted.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. That's the real thing. I'd like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony. And I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing. Furnish it with love. Grow apple trees, honey bees, and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. That's the song I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. That's the song I'd like to buy. Teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke
And keep it company.
That's the song I sing. I'd like to teach the world what the world wants today. Company, Coca-Cola. I'd like to buy the world a Coke. That's the song trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
Within hours of the verdict, the LA riots began and lasted 6 days. I had the best parents, the best. While most people were afraid to go out of their houses during the LA riots, my parents decided to fly down to California and take me, their 7-year-old little girl, with them to Disneyland because the flights were so cheap, the hotels were so cheap, and the world-famous park was empty of lines and people. I even got to miss school for 3 days. It was great. The riots were racial, of course. The white cops were to blame for all the mistreatment of blacks around the country. This, of course, warranted beatings, burnings, and killings around Los Angeles. Because don't you know, that will solve everything. The Los Angeles Times wrote, and I quote, "More than 60 people lost their lives amid looting and fires during the Los Angeles riots that ravaged the city over 5 days starting April 29, 1992. 10 were shot to death by law enforcement officials. 10 were shot to death by law enforcement officials." This is very necessary to point out because, you know, Of course, again, the cops are the bad guys. Has nothing to do with the fact that the rioters were the ones who started the rioting, and they also killed people in the midst of all the chaos. Cameras televised gravel truck driver Reginald Denny being dragged from his cab and beaten nearly to death. By this point, the intersection of Florence and Normandy has been the scene of angry protests and violence for more than 3 hours. Beaten with a tire iron, a fire extinguisher, and a brick, Denny is rescued by 4 strangers, 2 men and 2 women, who emerge from the crowd and drive his 18-wheeler to safety. Scores of merchants from South Los Angeles to Mid-Wilshire to Koreatown arm themselves with shotguns and automatic weapons to protect against looters and firebombs. With the city still in turmoil, more than 1,000 Korean Americans and others gather at a peace rally at Western Avenue and Wilshire Boulevard. By May 4th, thousands queue up at state employment offices. Economists estimate that 20,000 to 40,000 people were put out of work when their places of business were looted or burned. So much of this sounds so familiar. Now LA is pissed. Okay, understood. 2 years later, something else happened in LA.
3-second violation called out of line.
This is a Channel 5 News special report.
There is a rather amazing story developing in Los Angeles this hour, where California Highway Patrol is in pursuit of a white Ford Bronco, a car that was reported to be one that might contain O.J. Simpson and a friend earlier today.
A case that would be coined the trial of the century. O.J. Simpson, a.k.a. the Juice.
This is Betrayal Hill where I grew up, and this is Tree Sweet, the orange juice I grew up on. It's rich in natural energy, and the kids, they like to taste the Tree Sweet because it's always naturally sweet.
Nobody does it better than her.
Nobody does it better.
In 1969, O.J. Simpson was drafted to the Buffalo Bills, where his fame began. With the largest football contract that had ever been negotiated in NFL history, he managed to contract $650,000 for over 5 years. By today's dollars, that comes to approximately $4,660,000. In 1978, he was drafted to the San Francisco 49ers, and because I hate football so much, I'm not even going to try to attempt to explain all the many accolades he achieved over his career in football. Needless to say, I'm informed he was somewhat of a football legend. Starring in commercials and smaller film roles over the years, before and after retiring from the NFL, Simpson was most definitely a household name long before the night of June 12th. 1994. His ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were found dead at her home in Brentwood, California. O.J. was the prime suspect, especially when he did this.
You're counting cars.
Yes, I'm counting at least 5, and I thought perhaps 6 black and whites still following the Ford Bronco in the Orange County area.
Even more so when he did this.
The back gate, you go through the back gate.
Yes.
And it was open or broken or?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I go to the front and I'm looking to see what's going on. And I can see that it appears like Nicole had candles all the time. She really did, to keep her overhead down, I think. And music was on, and while I was there, a guy shows up. You know?
So Ron Goldman comes in the back gate.
Yeah, a guy that I really didn't recognize. I may have seen him around, but I really didn't recognize him to be anyone.
Again, in the interest of speeding things up and saving time, Simpson was eventually put on trial. And famous things happened like...
It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
I want you to assume that perhaps at some time, since 1985 or 6, you addressed a member of the African-American race as a nigger. Is it possible that you have forgotten that act on your part?
No, it's not possible.
Are you therefore saying that you have not used that word in the past 10 years, Detective Furman?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Turning a murder case into a race war between the LAPD and the black community was low, even for a scuzzy lawyer like Cochran. But it worked. And on October 3rd, 1995, the jury came back with a unanimous vote of not guilty. The whole part of the nation that was sane couldn't believe what they had just heard. The black community was outraged over the acquittal of those 4 cops, and this was the jury's way of punishing the system, by letting a very obviously guilty man walk free, because he was black. There is not a soul in this country who believes O.J. Simpson is innocent of the murder of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman.
Then my friends came in and we all started talking. We sat down on the couch. And I'm just telling you what I saw with my own eyes. You can believe me or not believe me. But in my experience, O.J. Simpson, one of the nicest men I'd ever met. He was nice to me. He was nice to my friends. The conversation was filled with warmth and levity, humor, and wisdom. We talked for 90 minutes, and then suddenly the Jew said, "You know what? I've got to be going." And as soon as the door closed, we all looked at each other like, that nigga did that shit. I can feel it.
And it has nothing to do with his skin color. It has to do with his arrogance, lack of empathy, and his DNA at the crime scene. Also some other small details like Nicole's blood in his car, the fact that he'd beaten up Nicole many times in the past, a catalyst for their divorce, and the fact that she'd told police numerous times that she was afraid for her life at the hands of O.J. But those pesky little facts just got in the way of the race trial against Mark Fuhrman. I mean, the murder trial against O.J. Simpson. So what do the LA riots, Rodney King, lack of fathers in society, and O.J. Simpson all have in common? Well, you'll just have to stay tuned to find out in my next video. That's it for today, everybody. Did you enjoy this video? Then make sure to like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Make sure to stay tuned for my upcoming videos. You won't want to miss them. And until next time, everybody.
Well, we had to do it sooner or later. Let's talk a little about OJ, please, because I have to get it off my chest. I know, it's been a year, it's a part of history, but I love the circus. I love the way the defense lawyers, are throwing us off. Because if you've got a mountain of forensic evidence, it's just good to go, yoo-hoo, over here, LAPD, woo-hoo, don't look at that, no, bad, hello, over here, hee-hee. Mr. Fung, on the day you handled the bloody glove, did you shampoo your hair? Answer the question, Mr. Fung, if that's your real name. Is the brilliant, creating reasonable doubt, doing what every lawyer should do? Johnny Cochran, very bright man. Got a mountain of forensic evidence. He acts like, why are we even having a trial? So smart. I think you ought to know. I think Miss Clark knows. I think the American people know. We're dealing with an innocent man. I think that's clear. What's DNA anyway? Just 3 little letters. Probably stands for did not attack. Then on the other side, the guy like Christopher Darden, trying to keep his dignity in this circus. He's a cool guy, and he gets really mad and he talks so soft and the veins are popping out the side of his head. He's like, I think you ought to know that we're going to file a petition in the state Supreme Court after this case is concluded for these tactics, and I think he ought to know. So I think it's clear. And you just know he goes home and goes, motherfucker!